Problem 22-38. Now we will be completing the cost of goods sold budget. So the cost of goods sold is simply, we're going to take the cost of each bat. Remember, we have the youth bats and the adult bats. Take the cost per bat, which we calculated up here. The youth bats were $14.50 per bat, and $16.50 was for the adult bats for the manufacturing overhead cost per bat. So we're just going to take the cost per bat and multiply it by the number of bats we sold, right? Well, there is a complication. We have some bats already in inventory, and it tells us up here that in the finished goods inventory on December 31st of the previous quarter, so in other words, the beginning balance this quarter consists of 500 youth bats at $15 each and 750 adult bats at $17 each. So if we check out the prices here, they are now less this quarter. So that's $14.50 for the youth bats and $16.50 for the adult bats. So again, that price has gone down this quarter. So here is the key. When this company keeps track of inventory, they use the FIFO, first in, first out method. So in other words, when we sell some bats, the first ones in which these up here, these 500 and 750 bats are sold, they're sold at this $15 each and $17 each. So those are the first ones that are coming out. So what we have to do here for the cost of goods sold budget is the first ones we're going to sell are the ones in the beginning inventory, these. So I'll go ahead and scroll back down and input this label here for beginning inventory. And first of all, we have to figure out how many we are going to sell. So that's up here in A. The budgeted sales are 1,500 youth bats and 3,000 adult bats. And these sales are also available on the sales budget if you scroll up. I can show you here, go all the way to the top. So again, for that sales budget, 1,500 youth bats and then 3,000 adult bats for a total of 4,500. So let's scroll back down. So first, we're going to be selling 1,500 youth bats. But the first ones that are coming out of this layer of inventory, which is 500 youth bats at $15 each. Remember, this is the cost for us to build each of those back in the previous quarter. So for this beginning inventory of youth bats, we're going to take 500 times $15 each. So we can put that into practice here. So 500 bats we're selling at $15 each for the youth bats. It's going to give us 7,500 here for the beginning inventory. But remember, we need to sell a total of 1,500 youth bats. So the first 500 is at this cost of $15 each, and that's what that is there in our beginning inventory. So we sold 500 at this layer of inventory, the $15 each, and now the rest, this 1,000 that's left over out of this 1,500, will be at the other cost here of $14.50 that we previously calculated. So we'll go ahead and clear this out and then input 1,000, and we multiply that by $14.50. And that is going to give us 14,500 for the youth bats produced and sold in the first quarter of 2026. So now you can see we've calculated the first 500 at this old $15 cost, and then this one we calculated at the new cost of $14.50 per youth bat. So now we are going to add both layers together to get a total here of 22,000 for our youth bats, the total budgeted cost of goods sold for them. And that's at the old cost of $15 here, and then at the new cost of $14.50 here. And now let's do the adult bats beginning inventory. So in order to get that here, we're going to go to the end of last quarter, the finished goods here. That consisted of 750 adult bats at $17 each. So again, that layer is going to get sold. So we have to multiply 750 adult bats times $17 piece. And that is going to give us 12,750 for the beginning inventory here. And again, that's just the first layer out of these 3,000 bats that we're selling. They were at a different cost to us. So now we need to figure out what the rest, the 2,250 leftover bats, are costing us. And again, that's going to be at the new cost here of that $16.50, since we are in a new quarter here. So let's go ahead and calculate that. So that's going to be 2,250 leftover bats that we are producing and selling in 2026 at cost of $16.50. And that is going to give us 37,125. And then we're going to add both layers together, those old bats and the new bats, in order to get our total cost of goods sold here for the adult bats. So that is going to give us a total of 49,875. And then we can add the beginning inventory across this way to get our totals here. So again, beginning inventory is going to be 20,250 for all of the bats added together. And then the bats produced and sold in the first quarter of 2026 is going to be 51,625. And then our total budgeted cost of goods sold for both the youth and the adult bats added together is 71,875. So added across this way or this way, if you want to double check your work, which we should. And then we can go ahead and check our answer. Excellent. And now we are almost done. So in the last video, we'll do the selling and administrative expense budget.